All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, we are in the midst of a genuine energy crisis. I know we are all vaguely aware of it, but the reason that we keep coming back to it is because we're learning in real time how much energy belies the entire economy. When the price goes up, if there's a supply shock or a problem, it affects everything. It leads to genuine misery in the West and causes potential mass death in the developing world. Last week, I warned about how Germany is on the precipice of igniting a global crisis. And sadly, the events of the last 96 hours have likely vindicated that. They show us the perilous next few months that we're going to face. They also show us the culmination of green idiocy in the West, which has shunned nuclear power and has left the world dramatically more vulnerable. Let's start with the immediate crisis in Germany. To recap, Germany is heavily dependent on Russian natural gas. That pipeline has been tapering off for the last few months as Russian retaliation against Germany for Western sanctions. It culminated in a total shutdown of the pipeline yesterday. Russia claims the pipeline will only be shut down for the next 10 days, but new indications say they may cut it off completely. France's Ministry of Energy which also relies on Russian gas, said yesterday that the day of the shutdown, the most likely event is a total and complete shutdown of the Nord Stream pipeline, effectively freezing Germany off from its major source of power. A move which will skyrocket the global price of natural gas, which powers 40% of power here in the United States just last year, 25% of the world's power last year as well. Furthermore, this leaves the Germans and the rest of Europe extraordinarily vulnerable. It shows us the holes in any European strategy against Russia. On the one hand, NATO and Biden say that we will endure high gas prices as long as it takes to defeat Putin. And yet, the moment that Germany was faced with a real shutoff as a major consumer power, they immediately got Canada to lift its sanctions on Russia for a key piece of equipment for the pipeline. Russia blamed the slowdown in gas to Europe on the inability to replace its gas turbines. And that new equipment shows that Germany far more values Russian gas than it does the war in Ukraine. So let's think about this. At the same time that they say high gas prices must be endured for as long as it lasts, then they are also lifting sanctions on Russia so that they can pay hundreds of billions of euros a year to Russia. That means that the West is funding the Russian war in Ukraine on both sides of the conflict, guaranteeing it will go on forever. No matter which side of the conflict you are on, you have to admit that doesn't make any goddamn sense. You either cut them off completely or you don't. But in the meantime, beyond exposing the hypocrisy of the Western stance towards the Ukrainian conflict, it also highlights the idiocy of the modern green movement. 3 days before the gas pipeline was shut off, the ruling coalition in Germany, which includes the Green Party, won a vote in parliament to back more coal-fired power plants to replace 3 remaining nuclear plants that they have planned to decommission. Yes, you heard me correctly. The Green Coalition is expanding the filthiest source of energy on the planet outside of literally burning trash in favor of ditching high capacity and low carbon dioxide sources of power. If that's not bad enough, the promises of the green movement are not coming true. Wind power, which is supposed to back up the grid and is supposedly super green, isn't working right now in Germany. Why? Because the wind is not blowing. So at the time when they need renewable power the most, it's not working. German power prices doubled in a single day upon the news of the gas shutoff, combined with the lack of wind. All of this is having an insane effect on German consumers. Germany, the 4th largest economy on earth, is now dimming streetlights and rationing hot water across the country, along with ceasing air conditioning and encouraging voluntary cuts in power at the household level. Rationing straight up power is next if the gas doesn't turn back on. I don't weep too much for the Germans. This is a problem entirely of their own making. But the bad news, as I always try to reiterate, is that it will undoubtedly spill over into the US economy and spike inflation here at home and all across the globe. You may have noticed, if you live in the Southwest, we are in the middle of a massive heat wave. 50 million Americans are under heat advisories in the last few days. Texas is already warning about potential rolling blackouts as a result of massive demand for power. Dig a little bit deeper, the details show this part of the reason the Texas grid is so screwed right now. Same as Germany. Low wind generation across Texas in the middle of a heat wave. It's reducing the amount of renewable power available while natural gas and coal are stretched to the max. Don't forget, Just avoiding blackout is not a victory. Natural gas is the major source of power for the Texas grid. Right now, prices remain much higher than previous energy crunches. As soon as LNG export facilities in Texas are fixed up and ready to export gas, prices are expected to double and go higher if that happens in August. Well, newsflash, it's still hot as hell in Texas. People there will be paying astronomical prices for power, even if the lights stay on. This is not just happening in Texas. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation is already warning the U.S. has a, quote, high risk of failure for its power grid this summer as a result of energy disruptions from Europe and increased temperatures across the country. We are being smacked in the face by reality. We are being made substantially poorer as a result of our Russia policy, and now more vulnerable. We need to surge reliable nuclear power now. It is obvious, and yet our so-called German allies are doing the opposite, and in turn are spiking prices for us here at home. All of this needs to be a wake-up call. For too long, the modern green movement has captured the political system to push a true program of idiocy, while fossil fuel interests have captured the dissenters to push their own failed scheme. Both are failing on an industrial scale with tremendous consequences for the globe. Can you imagine the fourth largest economy on Earth?
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.